welcome to Detroit Table Talk, Saturday edition. How is you guys doing today? It's been a long, long week. No, I'm just playing. But it has been a long week. And a sister is wore out. I have had to jump over so many hurdles this week. But at the end of the day, God is still good. Um, I almost got this week hmm by a YN. And and it taught me a lesson. Before I came here, I had to stop by Action Impact, and I lost my key to my gun lock,
Dang.
so I couldn't use it. Or well, I wasn't trying to use it, but I couldn't defend myself if I needed to because I didn't have the key to unlock it. So I had to stop at Action Impact once again. This has happened. This is the third time that I lost my key to the gun lock.
So what you do? Like,
I have no clue. I be thinking I'm putting it on my ring, and then I go back. I'll be like, "Where's the key?"
dang.
So I think I'm gonna be upgrading. I'm gonna get me one of those things you put your hand on or your finger on, and get something installed in my car where it goes with my fingerprint and stuff like that. That's wow. I mean, that's my third time. I said, Lord have mercy. And listen, times are getting hard. And unfortunately, these YNs about to be out here. And women, we are vulnerable. So if you don't have a CPL, it's time to get one. If it's expired, renew it. And if you're scared to carry a firearm, get you some mace. The strongest kind that you can get. You need something because these brothers out here are not taking names or anything. They trying to get over. And we have to be safe, especially if you're single and you're single with children walking in and out of the house. Or shoot, if you walking in and out of the house and you married and maybe he not home.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? You got to be prepared. You have to protect yourself and your children. But listen, today we have a special guest. We are talking about the realities of parenting a child on the spectrum. So we have Mike Powell with us today. Do we have claps or something? I want to hear claps or something. Oh my God, Mike is here. He has also a podcast, and it's called Hezekiah Kids.
Yeah, Hezekiah Kids, Dice Cart, Puzzle Piece, and Adapt presents the Spectrum
The
Talk.
Spectrum Talk.
Yeah.
And you learn a lot of information over there. But I wanted to steal Mike for a day because Mike is usually laid back, and you have two vocal women. So sometimes it's almost like playing double dutch.
Yep.
Mike be like, getting ready to jump in. So I just wanted to talk to Mike from a father's perspective. Give us a little background about your family before you introduce us to your son.
Cool, cool. Yeah. So I'm married. My wife is Jessica.
Hi, Jessica. Thank you for allowing them to come to the table.
I know she tuning in right now. And got my son MJ, he's 8. Well, let me rewind back. So Jessica, we met around 2007 when I was up in college and
Which college?
Ferris State.
Okay, Ferris
Yeah,
State.
yeah, I grew up in Detroit, moved around quite a bit. Plymouth, 6 mile, 7 mile, 8 mile.
Okay.
So I almost lived in every neighborhood on the west side, and then went to Wayne State for about a year and a half. Wasn't really figuring it out at Wayne State. I think it was just more just being at home. I was like, I got to get out of here. Then I went up to Ferris and met Jessica, and we've been together. Ever so we've been married. I'm on 8 years, but we've been together for like almost 20.
What?
Yeah.
So it took you that long to say
That's why
Come on,
that's
baby.
almost why I didn't want to say the year.
You know?
Because we talked my last 2 years of college, and then when I was coming out of college, it was the recession.
Okay.
So as I'm looking to walk across the stage, all I could do is just turn on the news and everybody getting fired. I'm like, man, what am I about to do? So I went down to McAllen, Alabama, which is near Birmingham,
Okay.
and she came down there with me. So we was go tie the knot, but we kind
And
of
she uprooted and
yeah,
followed you.
yeah, she been taking
Get
care
it,
of me.
Jessica.
We went there to Indiana. We moved state to state, and then once we came back to Michigan, as we finally, tied the knot.
Okay.
And it's funny, we was engaged. Just got a house, and she got pregnant with MJ.
Oh.
So MJ a preemie. So
How many
what
times
happened?
was he born?
He was born at 34 weeks. Yep, 34 because he Jessica. Man, I gotta stop getting emotional in front of all these cameras. But I remember I came home from work. She was working too, and then she you tired, and she just like, well, she think her water leaking. Now she was only at 28 weeks.
Okay.
So I'm looking like, I ain't had no kids, so I'm like, man, I don't see how her water leaking. And she was like real nervous.
They put her on bed rest.
Yep, we went to the hospital, and she was on bed rest from 28 weeks to 34. So it actually went through Christmas. So like that Christmas, like I'm wrapping gifts, putting them in the trunk of the car, taking them to her, and then I had to go to the hospital.
She was on bed rest at the hospital, not at home.
At the hospital.
Wow.
So we spent Christmas there. We spent New Year's there, and I would just have to keep going because we had dogs. I would go let the dogs out, and every day go up there 2-3 times, get whatever snack she wanted, and keep her straight.
Look at you being a good boyfriend. That was your boyfriend at the time.
Yep. So we was engaged, and then we knew MJ was gonna get born. He was gonna be born early. So my father, a pastor. My father, my stepmom, my aunt, my grandma, they all pastors. But my father actually came to the hospital, and then we wheeled Jessica out in a wheelchair, and we actually got married, and he married us at the hospital because I didn't want.
That is so. I love that.
I didn't want to have our first child without us being married.
Yeah.
So we got married. I still owe her a wedding, but we got married there, and then about a couple weeks later, that's when MJ was born. So he was about probably a little under 5. He was like 4 pounds 9 ounces, and came out at 34 weeks. Is a preemie about 6 weeks early, because I think full term is 40 weeks. I think. Yeah. And then they kept him in the NICU for 10 days, and that was tough. Because Jess was already emotional. And she'd been there for 6 weeks, and now her she didn't want to leave MJ.
Yeah.
So
I know that feeling.
She didn't leave the NICU. Like we went home one time, and I'm just like, babe, staff cool. And when we came, we just for her to get a little bit of rest. And when we came back, sometimes they gotta draw blood and do little things. So when we came back, and she sent like a drop of blood like on this nightgown. She's like, "Give me my baby." Oh, it was a wrap. It was a wrap. She did not leave. Like she was there, and they kept holding him. They was holding MJ and putting them under the it's called the John just light and stuff. Yep. And they wouldn't let him out unless he drunk enough, a certain amount of ounces. So we got tired. So I just drunk his bottle.
Did you?
I drunk the bottle. It was like, we out, nurse. Like he drunk his bottle, get us up out of here. But he was so he was so small. And
that is hilarious. No, I know that feeling because when my son came out, he had to stay in the hospital a few days, longer than me. And I was like, there's no way I'm leaving my baby here. And they, of course, his dad was like, he gonna be okay. We gonna come back, just come home and lay down and I ain't going nowhere.
Just don't play.
So I went in the waiting room. They was like, Carmen, Miss Evans, it's gonna be. I ain't going. If my baby ain't being discharged, I ain't discharged. Yeah. And I stay right there.
What's crazy? And that's like that feeling. Like
that feeling of security.
Movies. Yeah, and just even with MJ being 8, and my daughter Jaleesa, who's like, she's a piece of work. She 3, but that's that feeling of you feel like your kid's best with you, and then but you also just you protecting them, like you protecting their innocence, you protecting their everything, and it's like it's such your responsibility,
Yeah.
and like that's why I kind of like move like how I move because when I say I, it's me and Jessica's, but he's my kids are my responsibility, my household is like my responsibility. So
Absolutely.
not being an authority, but making sure preserve their innocence, preserve their joy, putting things in place to keep the house going a certain way.
Well,
I
at
just
the end
take
of
it
the
real
day,
serious.
you're gonna have to answer to God, for your household. So I definitely get it.
Sorry, I got a little something in my throat. These
So
allergies.
uh, just one nose all week. I don't know what's going on, but just one nose. Um, so how was Jessica during the time? How long was it from the time that he was born to the time that you guys start noticing something wasn't adding up?
I think because of course we weren't hip to certain stuff.
Okay.
So I would say once we noticed that he wasn't talking. Now, when I look back on the videos, I see stemming, but at the time, every kid played different. So
Yep.
we didn't notice it. So it wasn't like he was walking on his tippy toes or doing certain stuff. The only thing that we noticed is that he was starting to talk, and I got video, and then all of a sudden, he's not talking.
Now, was that something that happened? Did you go and get him shots or anything?
Yeah, it's man, it's I know the shot things is like such a like sensitive subject. What I
Controversial,
would
yeah.
say is that all right, MJ was starting to say mama and daddy. I got like videos on this high chair. I would say we went and got one and they told us that it was multiple and he could have a fever or something like that. So he was in daycare at this time. So so we got it. And then, he went to daycare. It was right across the street from my job. And then he was sleeping a lot.
Okay.
So then they called me and was like, your son having a seizure. You know what I'm saying? And of course it was right across the street and I drove over there. By this time he was in the back of the ambulance and
Whoa, that's scary.
that's what we kind of noticed. But it was right around that age. It was like he was starting to formulate stuff stopped. We got him that and I don't know, like I would say that's something that happened, but do I solely think that that's what it is? I don't
don't
think
know.
so. I don't think so because when I talk to other families, like some families, kids never got it.
Okay.
So I think it's some other factors that's
It
out
might
there.
be a combination between what's in the shot and maybe something that's inside of
It could be
the
genetic.
genes. Because I know with my grandson, he was talking, and after he got his shots, he just completely stopped.
I hear that. I do hear that story.
Completely stopped. He went from mama, dada, no, stop, to getting a shot. And maybe not even a week later, some days later, he just completely just stopped. And it was almost like he did like a little stare. And you know how sometimes you could be in deep thought? That's how he was. And it was like, and I just started watching him. And, slowly but surely, I started seeing his whole behavior change. He started lining up his cars, putting them in order. Everything was like his food. He was, separate the foods and stuff like that. He would eat one pea at a time. And I was like, I don't know. Now, at this time, I was working for DPS. So I had ASD classes before. So I went to my son. I said, I think he may be on the, spectrum. He said, don't be saying that. Don't be putting that on my son. I said, I think he is. And, he argued back and forth with me. I said, okay. Yeah. And I had a conversation with her mom. I said, let me talk to the other grandparents. And she said, I noticed something, some things too. She said, I was going to call you. And we jumped in right then and made doctor's appointments. Yeah. We had him diagnosed unofficially, but officially when he was almost 3.
See, MJ he was about 4, when cause the daycare, so the daycare was like, it was like progression.
Mhm.
They kind of like training your kid to pre-K.
Yeah.
And they should have been training them because they charged me more on my mortgage. So I would expect something more than just changing some diapers and feeding them. But what I started noticing was, okay, he's not talking.
Hmm.
And then it would be like toddler 1, toddler 2, toddler 3, and then it would be like pre-K.
Okay.
And what was happening was that they kept holding him back. So now he's like the oldest one in this toddler whatever class, and the kids are like way younger than him.
Mhm.
So it's taking them a longer time for potty training, this, like this, that, and the third. And that's when I'm starting. I was like, why is they holding him back? Well, he's not hitting certain stuff. And then that's when one of the
Milestones.
workers said autism. And I never even, I heard of like Down syndrome and things like, I never even heard of it. So I'm just like, nah, he just not talking, or he got some type of speech delay, because we did have him in speech therapy. And that's the first time I heard it. And I'm just
And I
like,
think we are now using the right terminology. Back then, we didn't know what it was called because we just knew that certain kids were in one class,
yeah,
you know, and we didn't know the diagnosis, because at the time, it's now offensive now and it's outdated. But at the time, we used to say special needs, or the kids, and it would be like that's the retarded class and stuff like that.
yeah,
Now we have progressed to exceptional students. So that's what we call them now, exceptional students. So I had never heard the term autism.
me either. I know when I was in middle school, I went to Coffee. It shut down now for like 7 Mile and between Southfield and Greenfield. And
Mhm.
I remember at Coffee, it was a classroom with kids that was kind of like severe.
Yep.
It was a classroom with kids that function,
Mhm.
and there was a classroom for just knuckleheads, the kids that was just
The
bad,
bad.
that you
Yeah.
keep getting kicked out of every class. So this your next
So
step is
that's
just
it.
getting kicked out,
They just
getting
throw you
kicked
in
out of
there.
school. But they had like levels to it, and I think back on it, and it was just that you didn't even tease or nothing. You was just really supportive. Like back when I was
Yep.
in middle school, it
Yep.
wasn't no bullying, none of that. But I do remember seeing that, and I didn't know.
But you know what? Being an educator now, I have to look at my students that I have. I have an ASD class, but even with my general ed students, um, you don't even know that a lot of them have IEPs. And I think it's become so common that the kids don't pick on each other because most of them, have some kind of diagnosis. Um, so like if we see a kid, or if I don't know and I say, where's your work? Why are you not doing no work? You come in here every day, you don't do anything. You just lay down to sleep. And one of the kids be like, oh, Miss Evans, he got an IEP. And I'd be like, shut up. Don't say that out loud. But they feel like everybody know. So it's becoming a little bit more common. And I'm glad because now we're able to teach the other children how to accept and help the other kids out,
Yeah.
you know. Um, so what was the process like in obtaining a diagnosis for them?
So so first the speech delay that got him into the early on program where he could get speech therapy with somebody coming into the house. That came from his doctor. She gave a referral, and then we went to the Bussey Center.
Okay.
And at the Bussey Center, it was just kind of like the local school district. So that started getting him help with speech.
Okay.
So he probably, around 2. Once we heard autism from his daycare, we went back to his peds or his doctor, and she was kind of like brushing stuff off. But we like, no, we want a referral to go somewhere. So once we got the referral from his main doctor,
What was the nationality of the doctor? Like Indian, like a foreign?
she wasn't black.
Okay.
But I'm not
But
sure.
but you know what? And that's something that I think we need to talk about more, because what I've noticed is when it comes to having our black children up under these foreigners, and I'm not saying it to be racist, I'm just stating a reality. They prolong a lot of things that we can catch, early on. You know, um with the whole, oh, they're too young to be diagnosed, or they're too young, to give them some time. And I think it's wasted time that some kind of work can be put in.
Yeah, you gotta stand up, for your kids, and you
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to be ashamed because,
Yeah.
like, even with, when he went through early on, he went through there, and they tried to, and I don't know their intentions, so I wouldn't try to, I wouldn't talk ill on them, but they want to jump from early on to full blown special ed.
Oh, okay.
So, like, once he aged out of early on, and he was 3, I'm touring the facility, and I'm looking around, and, like, now this he's not even diagnosed with autism.
Okay.
And I'm seeing these classrooms, and I'm like, hold on, my son got speech delay. Like, what is all this? Well,
Yeah.
if he for him to keep getting the services, we got to put him in full blown special ed. And we rejected the IEP
Okay.
because we like, hold on, he's just 3. Like, we don't. We was like, nah. I mean, we went through it and rejected it,
Okay.
because, like, why? That's too big of a jump. And then even with the
Okay.
school district, he
But you
need.
were still learning, so you didn't.
Yeah,
You didn't
I
know.
mean, at the age of 3, without him having no other diagnosis, like, it was too big of a jump.
Okay.
So, I mean, I was still open to go check it out. I still went through the process of getting the initial IEP, but then that kind of like pushed the doctor more and get him evaluated. So
Okay.
then at that point, it took like 4 or 5 months to even to get the evaluation set up. They was
So they
backlogged.
they back, yeah.
So we went up to, man, it was a heck of a copay too, but we took him up to U of M hospital.
Woo, the most expensive place.
I didn't know that. I just thought I had insurance. I don't even pay attention to, you don't pay attention to bills. So you start having kids and start getting them copays. I'm like, oh, this how it worked. Because we wasn't going unless I break an
Yeah.
arm or something.
Yeah.
You just paying the insurance. But we went up there, and it was probably like they had like, it was multiple people there. It was a neurologist. It was like a social worker. It was like at least 3-4 different people. And it was about probably like a 3-hour evaluation.
Mhm.
And then that's when they said, okay, he got autism, and then here's the resources.
Okay.
So that was kind of like the process. It was early on speech therapy, and then evaluation for autism. They said it. So then now we at the point of, do we want to put him in pre-K?
Tell me your son name again.
Michael.
Mike. I don't know why I wanted to call him Trey or something. That's why I was like, in
We
my
call
mind.
him MJ all the time. But
Okay, MJ.
yeah.
I don't know why in my mind I'm thinking Trey. I said, Carmen, don't say that name. Okay, MJ.
Yeah.
We just do MJ.
I call him Gobble because he eat everything. But yeah, we call him MJ.
he's a growing boy. So how has MJ's development been compared to a typical milestone?
So of course the speech is like, I would say that's the biggest delay
Okay.
with speech. And then he's super sharp.
Mhm.
It's, he do have some sensory sensitivities. So I would say just like milestone development.
So what does that mean to you? Some sensory? Does he put his hand in his ear or his shoulder to his ear?
It was severe. Yeah, it used to, like, if loud noises or new environments, and the hands over the ear is not always like to noise.
Yeah.
That could just be how I create a safe space if it's
Yeah.
too bright lights or if it's
Yep.
too much stuff going on, too much
Yep.
motion. So when he was younger, that's when we start noticing too, is like a motorcycle went past and it was just taking him a long time to calm down.
Mhm.
So with him, I would say the delay was the speech. And then it was sensory sensitivity, not a lot of like behavioral stuff early up front. And then it probably took him till 4 to like fully be potty trained.
Mhm.
So he would, so we just had it, like, he didn't wet the bed throughout the night. So we just get him up, put him on the pot in the morning, but it took till 4. Socially, he would play with kids. He made eye contact, he would want to come play with us. But he, outside of the talking, he was extremely smart and self-taught.
How is his diet?
That's a good question. That's a good question. If it was his choice, he'd eat what he want.
Okay.
But all right, I'm gonna go all the way back. So when he was younger, before the diagnosis, he wasn't as picky.
Okay.
And then as he started getting older, he not scared to touch stuff. So it's not so much like that, but he eat pizza, spaghetti.
Love pizza.
But we go,
Chicken nuggets.
he don't really mess with meat.
No, French fries.
His sister could get him to eat it. He'll eat French fries.
Okay.
But we took him to a holistic doctor,
Oh,
and we did it was like a urine and an oats test to where you had to collect this pee, collect this poop, send it in, and then they did an analysis on like the metals in his body. But it kind of came back that he might have like gluten and dairy sensitivities. And I
Okay.
did notice that is that like if he eat Oreos or if he eat like not so much on the gluten side, but when he eat dairy. So if we was to get a pizza from wherever,
Mhm.
when he go to the bathroom, it seemed like he kind of struggling, or the poop is not as solid.
Mhm.
So now, with the spaghetti and the pizza, we just do gluten free, dairy free, and then
Okay.
that way he.
But that's what I learned with my grandson. Um, we as we were trying to figure out this new life, because he was very picky. Pretty much he only wanted pizza, French fries, and nuggets. That's it.
Yeah.
And I was having a hard time with that because I'm like, no, he has to have some vegetables. He got to have some fruit and this and that. And when we talked to his pediatrician, which is African American male, um, and I say that a lot, African American male, he said, listen, at this time, we just want him to eat. So if that's because he would not eat. He was stubborn. He was like, if I can't have what I want, I starve myself.
They could do that. That's what my daughter do. Like it
So
really
I was
like
just like, let him have it. Long as he eating,
yeah.
Because listen, you come to Nana house, all that screaming and kicking and just where the pizza? Let Nana finna order it right now.
Yeah.
Just chill out. So yeah, we didn't, and I started just doing research and stuff like that. So I took it to his parents and his grandparents, especially his grandparents, because she the one made the meals in the house. And we started going gluten free, and we started doing the probiotic, and giving him vitamins and stuff like that. And of course, we had speech therapy, occupational therapy. We had every kind of therapy coming to our house. And then we found a school in Grosse Pointe that specialized in autism. And Chris was really laid back, quiet, good kid. And then he started going to that school. And in his class, a couple of the kids would have meltdowns. Then Chris started having meltdowns.
That's a good. I want to talk about that, but yeah.
Chris started having meltdown. His daddy was not playing that. He was like, where you get that from? Yeah. And me, I'm like, oh, he's probably part of his daddy. Like, well, I don't care about being no part of that. He was like, get up and you better not fall out again. Chris would get up and look. And he would look at me and I'd be like, leave my grandbaby alone.
But that's crazy. I mean, that's what fathers, a father, you want to, not so much of an authoritarian, but you want to have that presence. But like MJ, his meltdowns, it chilled out, and then sometimes they mimic what they see.
That's exactly what it is.
And that's all it is. And it's like,
that's exactly what it is.
And I'm not sure if he's verbal or not, but
yep, he is.
But think about it though, like if you see no wrong in that as the kid, you know what I'm saying? And then that's one thing I had to kind of like work on, is like the always correcting thing, and like not, and then like, rather than just like understanding like what's going on.
You just have to have a balance with it.
Yeah.
Because you have to correct it, but you got to show love and also do more memorable things. Because you don't want, and I'm learning this even as a parent that don't have kids on the spectrum, or maybe it's undiagnosed, I don't know. But I remember a prophet telling me one time, you want to make memories that they, of you guys laughing and having fun, not of you always correcting.
Yeah.
Because I'm more militant. And even now, as an educator, I'm more militant.
And see, I'm an engineer, so it's input, output. It's like, it's doing stuff. It's, really, I probably got a little bit of OCD with having stuff. I go to work, the orange, the apple got to be here, thing got to be in line. So like, it's like you articulated that very well. It's the memories, you know. It's
Yeah.
so with like parents who, you know, who dealing with children on the spectrum, you don't want to get too caught up in the. I mean, you got to correct and work with them, but you still want them to have fun and
Yeah.
stuff. And I
Yeah.
watched Jessica, you know, she run around with the kids, they playing hide and seek, and MJ is just he counting too, like he's covering, and it's just like that's you
Giggling and
still got to
having
have
fun.
fun. You still got to do that.
What are some of MJ's hobbies or favorite activities?
So MJ, his biggest interests or activities is like anything that's involving planets. Like he's into astronomy.
Oh, my grandson is into that now.
So he know the planets in order from the sun. You could even like not even have the planet nothing written on them, and he'll just look at them and understand if it's Earth or Venus or Mars. And then activity wise, he like throwing, playing catch. He like riding his bike.
Okay.
You know, we still haven't took the training wheels off, but he like being outside and like riding around and stuff like that.
Get the training wheels off. Get him a helmet. Get him some knee pads, elbow pads. He gonna fall.
Yeah,
He'll be all right.
that's what I'm gonna actually do that tomorrow because he going.
Yeah, I was scared, but his granddad, he was like, "Boy, I'm tired of these things." He said, we getting out here in this parking lot and you gonna ride." And Chris got on that bike, and he's like, "Okay, this is what I want you to do." He was holding him up. He said, "I just want you to keep paddling." And you know, he was walking with him for a second. He said, "Just keep paddling." Chris didn't even realize he had let go. And he was going so fast. I'm like, catch him, you know, get him.
How did he break the first time, or did he?
His granddad grabbed him.
Yeah.
And then in other times after that, he just put his feet down.
MJ went up under the Silverado.
He
was going. I was like,
him to
yeah,
a church
MJ,
parking
yeah.
lot.
And he just, I was like, oh man, he about to hit that car.
Put that bike in your car and take him to a church parking lot. It's open space. He can't hit nothing. Now listen, but that concrete, but he close to it already, so he ain't gonna get hurt.
Kids, they heal like Wolverine,
You know
so they'll be all right.
So what does your child enjoy talking about? Or how do you keep him engaged with certain things?
He MJ pretty easy going with stuff. I mean, he always up under me. So he's always like interested in like what I'm doing.
Okay.
So if I'm like repairing drywall, he looking, he might want to, if I'm working with a hammer, he want to do it. Actually, he has a big interest into photography.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I used to shoot like weddings and portraits, like senior pictures and all that in real estate. And he used to be with us, and I didn't know that he picked it up. And then we was walking the dogs.
Oh, I love that.
And he had the phone, or he had like a little play camera. But when he took the picture, he knew how to like adjust and like get the angle just right. Like he knew how to get the whole thing that he was trying to capture into the picture. So he yeah, I mean, he liked photography, but really he kind of just followed behind dad, really.
I think I saw a video. I think you were videoing wherever you guys were, and MJ had the camera, and as you was videoing him, he was videoing you.
Yeah. Yeah, he liked doing that.
That was so cool. But that's awesome. Like, get him a camera and, create MJ World, through the eyes of, of him, and create like a little book.
That's a good idea.
Pictures that he took.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Oh, that would be so much fun.
I still got my main camera too. I'm gonna start letting him just kind of shoot with it, and figure it out. But he an exceptional little guy. I mean, if you ask him stuff, even if you take devices or stuff like that, I mean, he might trip a little bit, but MJ, he really just kind of chill. I mean, his biggest meltdowns in the past was just the talking.
Okay.
Like if you ask him something, forget you asked him, he's go freak out because he wants you to understand, okay, I get it, and this is what you want. Like today, I asked him about, he's learning how to talk, he learned how to say arm.
Mm-hmm.
I asked him something I forgot, and he started bawling because he's trying to talk and mumble. So he just like
that was my next question. How does he prefer to communicate with speech or the AAC devices?
He do a mixture. Okay. So he'll verbally say yes or no and some stuff, or he'll say no, Papa. That's what he called me. Say no, Papa. Yes, Papa.
Okay.
But he'll still pull out the AAC device, and when he used that, he type out full sentences.
Okay.
So he's not just going to just like a picture. Like if he go in, he got to go to the keyboard, put space, and actually he typed the whole sentence out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah.
We didn't. We chose to opt out of that. I just felt like that device for Chris would do more crippling than him progressing. Like I say, he went from being verbal to nonverbal, and they wanted to give him that little laptop where if he wanted some milk, he pushed milk, and I said, "No, that's crazy." I said, we all got together. We said, "Listen, Lord said He's going to talk," and they was like, "Well, maybe we should just." I said, "God said He's going to talk." And that's the bottom line. So we had a meeting with the school, and we, made sure that they understood that what we were believing, and we wanted that same, we wanted to extend to them whatever we were speaking at home. That's what we wanted them to speak, in school. So we didn't want them to, so like at home, if he wanted some juice, he had to say juice, you know. He went first pointing, and it was like, okay, we let you point for a minute, but you got to say juice.
Yeah.
And there was times he would get really frustrated. He'd be trying to talk. He'd be like, boy, if you don't say juice, oh, well, you ain't getting no juice. Juice, with an attitude. And I'd be like, okay, I don't care how you said it, as long as you said it, high five them and stuff. Yeah. And we allowed that to happen for maybe a couple of months. And it's like, now we need to make sentences. Can I have some juice? So when we would talk to the teacher, we would say, don't let him point. Ask him to ask for what he wants. So we wanted us both to be doing the same thing. What we were doing at home, we wanted him to do at school.
Yeah.
And as far as like the other grandparents, everybody had to be on the same page. We didn't want one household to be babying him because he was diagnosed with autism, and the other family pushing him, like, I don't want to go over there because they're going to make me work. And over here, I just can just point,
Yeah.
And kids are really smart.
Yeah, they know how to. It's like MJ, so when he went to his first speech therapist, they was doing sign. Yeah, they was doing sign language. And so, after
you know how to sign?
they started doing, he could do some stuff with sign. So they was having them do sign. And then we went to, that was just speech. And we was on a waiting list for ABA and speech. So when we went to the next place, that's when they kind of introduced the device. I don't know. I think it's like with him, I think the device kind of helped with sounding stuff out too.
Okay.
So he hearing that voice and like seeing it, I know it did because he was kind of like making that connection with this word, this how it sound. And I think it actually helped him. I mean, but do he take it everywhere? No.
Now, because I see some children that are on the spectrum, their parents allow them to be on their phones and those tablets all the time. And it's almost like it's a babysitting device. And I get it. Some kids, get frustrated, and it's easier to just say, okay. But I had spoke with several doctors, and they were saying that the way that a mind of someone with autism, if they're off to the side, it's like their mind going to a world of its own. So what Chris doctor and some of the neurologists and stuff like that, they encouraged us to give them the laptop or the iPad for limited time. That way his mind won't revert and go back, keep him engaged.
I could see that, because when MJ has, or Jaleesa, if he have the tablet, it could overstim him after too long. So he'll start, because sometimes he like to play and rewind stuff. So it can overstimulate him. But to the point of what the doctor told you, when we take the device, then how I can notice where he's stimulating his mind going to his own little space too, to where he just kind of walk around stimming with his round object. So I could see that.
We engaged him. We he had to talk. We had to read. We would sit on the floor and play. And of course, sometimes he would, whine, and point to his iPad or iPad. It's not time for iPad.
Do we have any siblings, if you don't mind me asking?
He has a Christopher. No, he's the only child.
See, that's what MJ once
He's the only
Jaleesa got old enough.
Now he
They don't got
has-
no devices. They running around the house and tearing it up together. So they, that's what we could pull that device and then they'll go play with the little remote control cars and they'll kind of go play
Mhm,
together.
mhm.
But that engagement is
It's important, and I try to, even with the parents that of the children I have, I try to tell them it's important that you communicate with them, talk, to well, we got all boys at this point. It's important that you talk to them. Bring him into the family discussions. Watch a movie and ask questions while you're watching a movie. To keep their mind stimulated.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, Chris went from nonverbal to, I think he was graduating elementary, and we didn't even know until we got to his graduation that he was valedictorian, that he was going to give a speech.
dang.
We're sitting in the audience, and the teacher calls him up, and we like, what is she doing? She didn't give us any heads up. Chris got on there and gave a speech, and then named all the kids in his class.
Dang.
I was like, tears everywhere, just
Yeah.
bawling. And it's like, when did this happen? I'm like, did she talk to you? Did she talk to you? And his dad was like, Mom, did she call you? I'm like, I'm just as clueless as you guys are.
Yeah.
But he did such an amazing job. And then we kind of learned how his mind worked. He loves, well, first he got addicted to ships. So somehow he found out about the Titanic.
Yeah.
He learned everything about the Titanic. And we had to keep listening to the Titanic over and over. And he would call, he'd say, Nana, did you know that on the Titanic? And I'm like, where did he learn this stuff at? And sometimes I'd be like, if he said the Titanic one more time. But he always had information. So we incorporated whatever he's involved in. We incorporated in whatever we're doing. So he loved the Titanic. So we ended up having a Titanic birthday party. So we brought him the little sailor hat, the outfit, a big ship, and it was crazy.
That's what's up.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Like last year, my son came over and said, Mom, do you know Chris know all the states in all the countries? I said, what are you talking about?
I don't even know all the states.
He said, we put on YouTube and we were going through YouTube and he saw it and he saw a flag and he said the country. So he stopped and it was like a quiz, 100 flags. And he knew all of them but two.
And I was talking to this parent and she said her son at the age of 2, when they went to the grocery store, he learned Spanish for English.
Whoa.
And was talking to a Spanish person in the grocery store like at the age 2 or 3 and learned it like, man.
Now see, that's the amazing thing about those iPads and laptops, because they do learn a lot. They do, and they just be scrolling and
because MJ, when I started noticing like his retention, it was like a me reader book. So you get one, it read off the pages for you.
Mhm.
So you get a pack of them. It's probably 10 pages. You get 8 books. So that's 80 pages.
Mhm.
So it'd be a book about the jungle, rainforest, animals, ocean, the code. So he would go under his bed. He had like a loft bed. He studied all 80 pages. So then if you just ask him, well, like you had to go to the main thing, you had to select which book, which page. And then he didn't even need the book no more. You could just say lion and he'd just go push and be like, so his retention, that's when I started noticing like his retention and his learning was real quick, how sharp he was.
Wow.
Like he taught himself how to write his ABCs, upper and lowercase at 3. He studies stuff. That's what he do. Yeah. Even when he around stemming, like he's studying, like I thought he was just stemming and he was really studying me with the camera. You know what I'm saying? So he
Our
pretty
children are
sharp.
very gifted. And that's why I think it's important that we allow them to grow. You know, sometimes parents can be the issue.
Hmm.
You know, sometimes they don't know what to do, so they kind of create a world, you know what I'm saying, to in essence to keep them safe, but they also stunt their growth,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
So we allow Chris to do whatever a young, you know, person of his age do. He did. Chris, we put him on a soccer team, baseball team. He's in orchestra now. Um, he plays the violin.
What?
Uh-huh. He's in choir. Uh
That's
he
amazing.
does a lot. He does a heck of a lot. Um in his last report card he got all A's, a 4.1, 6 or a 9. And
Dang.
now his teacher says that she uses him to teach the class.
That's what's
So
up. Cause I've been trying. I was like this summer. I was looking to get MJ into piano just because of his
yes,
intellect. You know what I'm
yes.
saying?
Oh, that'll be fun for
'Cause
him.
you said he on violin.
Hmm.
I remember I tried out for band when I was at Coffee. I didn't even make it
Not
past
just
the.
violin, he in orchestra.
And I tried to. They started me out on the drum pass. I ain't make it past that. Then the next year I went to another school, tried to get in the choir. Man, I know I seen it in the instructor face when I sung "Lift Every Voice" and sing like
He ain't gonna
he
do
ain't gonna do it. So I just started playing basketball.
But no, we got to keep our kids engaged, you know, find out what they like. And then sometimes we have to push them. Like we didn't know if Chris was going to like soccer. But it was like, hey, big boy, we're playing soccer. I don't want to play. Or you're playing. And then if you stand for the whole season, and then if you don't like it after that, then you don't have to do it next year.
Yeah.
But whatever we start, we have to finish. And it's become his favorite sport.
I think like sports and stuff is good for like because a lot of kids that's on the spectrum they have issues with like fine motor.
Hmm.
So like just those motor skills and like working out. Because I mean, you're right. That's what you do. You create this cocoon.
Yep.
Like you don't you want to keep everything safe,
Mhm.
but you know what I'm saying. You not really letting go. Like when I was younger, I was riding the bike up and down the street around the
Yep.
block. I was climbing trees and stuff like that. Like I was super active. And you know these kids need to be they need to be super active and doing stuff. Then also what I noticed, like I snuck in his classroom, and with the teacher and how he act in the classroom and what other people can get out of him, dad can't do everything.
Yep.
So I'm seeing like, man, you don't do this at home. He's sitting there, he listening, he doing stuff. Like they laugh at me at the school because he going to the school, take his coat off, hang it up, doing all that. I was carrying his book bag in. He knew to
Yeah.
take his lunch pail out, where to put it. So that's when I started understanding, like, and I always say the word
Let him,
community, like
yeah.
it's a community of like that could really help you out.
I tell the parents all the time when they walking past my room to go to his main class, I be like, Mama, why do you have his bag? Give him his coat. Give him his bag. I just didn't want. I said, that's a
Yeah, I do the
boy.
same thing.
Give him his coat. Give him his lunch bag. You dragging him. You dragging his coat. He all right. He inside the building. Where he going?
Yep.
You know, if he not a runner. Now, if he a runner, hold on to his hand. But if he ain't a runner, give him that lunch pail.
Yep.
You know, say where we supposed to go. Let him guide you. You know, I do. I force the kids. Like them kids when they first came to my class, they would just run past me and get some of them go in the corner, some start rolling on the floor. I was like, okay, we're gonna start at the ground zero. I wouldn't let them in the class until they said good morning. Good morning, Donovan. He just look at me. Good morning, Donovan. Good morning, Donovan. Good morning, Miss Evans. And I said, okay, good job. Go on in.
Yeah.
Good morning, Noah. And he'd be looking. I'd be like, Noah, you're not going until you say good morning. Morning.
Yeah.
I don't care how you say it, as long as you say it.
Yeah. That's teaching that little bit of structure and stuff.
Yeah,
Like.
yeah.
Everybody need, a little bit of structure and goals and
They
stuff
do.
like that.
I mean, I absolutely love my kids. They amaze me every single day with their growth. And that's what we always want to see is some kind of growth. Let me ask you about, because I know a lot of parents that I spoke spoke with and speak to, including my son. When you first found out, or both you and your wife, when you first found out about MJ's diagnose, how did you internalize that?
It took a while, because you just kind of froze. I mean, you get it.
Did you feel like it was something that you guys probably did or didn't do?
Not off rip. Nah, because you haven't really been talking to nobody.
Okay.
So it's kind of just like, I mean, he young, he's 4. You kind of just froze. Like, you start thinking like, what can fix it. So like when they give you that book of all these therapies, in your head, because you want your kid to be quote unquote normal, which ain't nothing normal, but you thinking like, okay, this is what's going on. It's like the first thought is, okay, if I put him in these therapies, that's go fix this.
Yeah.
And that, and I think people might kind of like stay on that path for a minute. You thinking kind of like engineering terms, this is wrong, this is what I got to do to fix it.
Mhm.
And then after you start really learning and internalizing it, like what you're saying, now you like, okay, this is gonna be this is kind of like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Like you break your leg, you get a cast.
Yeah.
If this happened, you do that. It's not so much of like a light switch with autism. It's just a journey that you on and not
Oh,
something
yeah.
that you're trying to fix.
Oh yeah.
But I think parents up front, I can't say for all, but for me, because I don't want to speak, for Jess, because I don't know if we ever really had this conversation, but I know for me, it's just like, okay, this was going on. And, this what I got to do to fix it. Of course, I'm going to pick one of these centers in this book and I'm going to start taking them to these centers to kind of start fixing stuff. That, that's how I looked at it.
Now, did you at one point in your life, it seemed like you got a good grasp on it now. At one point in your life, did you feel like, did you, or have you or your wife ever felt like, wow, I'm like overwhelmed? Like, why did God give me this assignment?
I answered the second person. Like, I never questioned God's will.
Mhm.
So like, I never looked at it like, I was kind of like grateful.
Okay.
Because it helped me, mature in a lot of areas I need to work on as a man. When I get approached with tasks or difficulty, I always try to revert back to what can I change to accommodate it. So like if I get a difficult task at work, I always feel like there's a way to do it and I need to kind of restructure how I'm doing stuff to kind of like deal with it.
Okay.
So I would never discourage, like if we feel like we falling behind, then okay, I'll get up at 4 instead of 5 in the morning. Okay, if we feel like we kind of getting overloaded with cooking, okay, let's just cook 5 pounds of spaghetti and freeze it. Now we go free up time. So I always try to look at like solutions
that's definitely
on how to
engineer
kind of
mindset.
yeah. I mean, and I've been like this since I've been like younger, but I always try to look at the solutions. And then on the spiritual level, I've been through like struggles and stuff like that, but I think God like kind of like blessing you with the angels, like kind of what I say in the prayer, like you getting this angel, you special if you have this child.
Yeah.
So God trusting you like tremendously.
Yeah.
So for me, it's now I got to sit down. I need to meditate. I need to pray more. I need to listen to Walter Hawkins before I turn on the Breakfast Club, because now I got to start putting stuff in place to kind of like build me up spiritually. Because obviously, God, you want me to do something, or what I'm saying, you got something planned for me. And the only way that I'm gonna figure that out is if I start changing my routine. Just like I changed the routine when I'm faced with something difficult.
Now, how does MJ interact with with your family and peers?
He
Do you have a lot of support?
I think we won't let nobody watch him. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, we will let some people watch him. He interact, he run up, he'll go, that's Nana and stuff like that. So no, he interact pretty cool. I mean, sometimes it might be a little bit of personal space when he might just be like this, but yeah, he interact no problem. Now he ain't trying to like stay up in your face. He'll come say what's up. He'll come laugh with you. He'll play games with you and stuff like that. But after a while, you're like, leave me alone. You know what I'm saying? But he will like engage in like activities and stuff like that. He won't be isolated.
So how do you incorporate date nights where you and your wife can energize each other?
You mean like sit down and watch Netflix? 'Cause we ain't been on
Okay.
a date in a minute.
But even that, you know what I'm saying, where it's just y'all time without the children. Now your daughter doesn't show any signs or anything like that.
No, it's just signs of bad. Just
Okay.
signs of being a brat, but that's about it.
So yeah, so how do you guys energize each other without the children?
I mean, that's a struggle, you
Okay.
know, because we always we don't really like let nobody babysit them. And I got a big family. I mean, I got 6 little sisters,
Now
2
why
brothers.
is that?
Me being overprotective. I know it's not. I'm being transparent. I don't want to get up here and lie. You know what I'm
No, I
saying?
mean, I
Yeah.
understand. But how does that look as MJ is growing older and we don't always look at the totality of everything?
Mhm.
God forbid anything happen.
So
How do you get him used to being with other people? Um,
so we is working on it. I'm gonna go backwards a little bit. So when MJ got diagnosed, it's other things that start coming with it.
okay.
So not and I'm not gonna say with it, but other things happen at the same time. So it's not so much like being overprotective with autism. So MJ, you know, he did have 3-4 seizures.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm,
then also MJ got asthma.
mhm.
MJ don't know how to. So I mean, the time I spent in the ER, I'm talking about days in the ER, multiple times throughout the year, to where the insurance was like trying to go after my doctor. They was getting mad, but it's a little bit of the autism, but it's a little bit of those other health conditions to where you nervous. Like he's not verbal. He can't tell me he's not breathing.
Mhm,
So you know he'll catch it. You know, it's almost like autoimmune. Like he catch bugs very quickly.
mhm.
You got to give him a steroid. You know, give him albuterol. So it was a combination of being nonverbal, not so much, but it was a combination of these other stuff that we was really trying to like learn.
Mhm.
So you know what I'm saying too. Now we kind of like got a grip on it, and now we kind of like working on that process of somebody watching him.
Okay.
But it wasn't just because he's nonverbal, nobody can't watch. It was like a lot of those other health things going on that I don't got asthma, my wife don't got asthma, you know, and the seizures weren't real frequent, but they did happen, and we was just trying to like figure out, you know, trying to figure all that stuff out.
I'm not sure, but I know that I heard of some resources that um autism parents that have autism children, they kind of partner together and they kind of help each other out in that area when it comes to, okay, I have an autistic kid, so I kind of know what to expect and stuff like that. I'll give you a break. And then, maybe the favor is returned or maybe as a barter system or something like that.
I heard about some houses like that, like not probably like official business, but I did hear about like homes. Like my neighbor told me, you know, because his sister, you know, was autistic. He told me about like I don't know if they really out there like that, but it might be a home with like 5 or 6 bedrooms, and it might be a parent there. I heard of that system, but you know, probably more in just like past talking, but I never like really connected with somebody who was really, you know, involved in it.
I know, like, what some of the parents at my school do is they don't, I've not, they've not told me thus far that they have um, kept each other children, but they do get together on the weekend. So if they, like, a couple of the parents are taking some of the kids to, I think it's called a circus, but it's like a water thing, and then that big old giant bounce house.
Mhm.
So they're
Oh,
going
that yeah,
there.
I seen that. Yeah,
Um,
we
man, we got a lot of our ASD aides and stuff like that will go over to their house where the kid is familiar, and they pay them, so they can go out and get their hair done, their nails done, or they can go get a movie. So I guess what I'm asking is, have you started building up that community that you say, okay, I want to take my wife out, for the night, and these people are equipped, CPR certified. They know how to administer medicine and stuff like that.
nah, we haven't made it over that. We do have a community of like other parents with children to where we meet up and like cook and have get-togethers at each other
Okay.
houses. So we do that. But as far as you know, something to that, nah, we haven't. But we are starting to kind of like look into it, you know, because MJ, he followed directions. He cool. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And
yeah.
he outgrown, thank God, like his asthma flare up's not bad. He haven't, had a seizure in like 4 years. So he's straight now, but we are starting to do it. But the way we've been balancing it now is just my wife step out, I'm chilling.
Mhm,
Cause really I don't feel like going nowhere, no way. Like
mhm.
I just like sitting in the house, working on the house and doing stuff like
So
that.
you're a homebody?
Oh, for sure. I build, I work on the house. You know what I'm saying? I do stuff like
Have you
that.
become a homebody or were you always a homebody?
Um, I always just had like probably a small group of friends,
Mhm.
that I kick it with. But I like, like they say, idle mind is like the devil's playground. So I'm always doing stuff, I think about stuff, and I'm always like, I like staying busy because it helps keep my mind sharp.
So are you I thought I saw that you are in a fraternity.
Yeah, yeah.
So how does that work?
The only fraternity. I'm just
Okay,
playing.
you're right. Listen, okay.
No, with Kappa, no, I mean it's not as busy as it was like up in college. When I was in college, it's only a handful of you up there.
Mhm.
At this level, it's not as busy. So I'm in the frat, still do photo shoots every now and then, help people out. I still
So
move
do you
around a little
get do
bit.
you get MJ out to some of the community service events with your bros and stuff like that? Your frat brothers?
Uh no, like it. I haven't took them out to like that. We do get them out the house, but I haven't took them to no events like if we throw a picnic, like I crossed the ET Epsilon Tower, that's Fair State.
Mhm,
So when we throw our picnics and stuff, I could take them out there and stuff like that.
mhm.
But it's really, MJ get out, we go to parks, we do stuff, but I push him, but then also kind of like gauge like what he want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like if he want to do certain stuff, we push him, or if he just want to chill and ride his bike and play with his sister, we kind of just like kind of let him do what he do.
So
He
do
played baseball too,
does he?
Yeah.
Do have you taken him to the movies? How does
We
he
haven't did that yet.
start taking him to the movies?
So he
Go like early in the morning where it's
oh
not a
like
lot of
during the
people.
matinee hours.
Mm-hmm. Or like when they first open. And that way, even if he wants to get up, when we first took Chris. Well, I first took Chris when he was a baby. So I said, let me start now so he can get used to it. But when he started getting to be like 5 and 6, my girlfriend has a son. I'd be like, come on, let's do a play date. Ethan to sit there, Chris, eat his snacks, and then he start wigging out. We would be there so early that he get up, he want to walk through all them rows, go right ahead while I'm watching that movie.
Now, do they dumb down the noise a little bit,
You
or is
can ask them. Yep, you
okay?
can
I
ask
would
them.
think that would probably be the biggest thing, because
Yep.
sometimes you go into those theaters and it
And then we do earplugs.
okay.
Well, we don't have to do it now, but we do earplugs. That way it soaks up a lot of the noise.
Yeah. No,
So
we'll try. We try that. I know my daughter. She like Moana and seeing all that stuff. So
yeah.
she'll
Go
go
early in
two
the
three
morning when ain't
times.
nobody in there and nobody's complaining. I remember one time my grandson was complaining. I was trying to hurry up and open up the juice to put it in a sippy cup, and it was a kids movie. It was a grown man 2 rows in front of us. Um, and first of all, I was wondering why he was in there because he ain't had no kids in there. I'm weary about stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
What is a grown man in here watching a peanut movie? Well,
Bootlegging. I'm just.
you know, and my grandson kept whining and stuff like that, so he went and told the people.
Oh, the dude did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So they didn't say anything to me at first. They just came in and stood on a stair, a couple of rows, in front of us. So I was agitated. So I said, "Excuse me, did you come in here for my grandbaby?" They said, "Oh no, ma'am. Well, why are you standing there?" I said, "Because he got up, he walked out, and he came back. Then all of a sudden, you came in." I said, It's not a rocket science to put two and two together." I said, "So why are you here? When have y'all started standing inside of a movie when a movie was going on?"
Yeah.
So he was saying, "Well, there was some, complaint." I said, "There was no complaint except for the man that's in here without a child. So if he doesn't want to hear kids make noise, then maybe he need to go to an adult movie."
Yeah, that's a good point.
So they was like, "Oh no, he's fine." So I was a little upset because it was in a neighborhood with them.
Yeah.
Um, and at that time I didn't even want to stay. So I was like, give me my money back. Like, we won't be back here.
I'm gonna, but I'm sorry, and I meant to say this before. You brought up something that I think is like very important. Knowing that kids that's on the spectrum are picky eaters, you kind of talked about multivitamins. Now, I think that's really important, even if a kid is like not on the spectrum,
Mhm.
because one of the things that we do, my friend, I call he really my brother, brother Bay at More Herbs, like he introduced us to like the sea moss and the black seed oil and stuff like that. So that's how
That stuff
MJ,
helps.
yeah, that's how he get his vitamin. You know, sea moss got that's like the ultimate one of the ultimate
Mhm.
multivitamins.
Mhm.
So like when if he start getting sick, we hitting them with elderberry, we hitting them with vitamin C, we hitting them with colloidal silver,
Mhm.
and that suppress cold
Mhm.
symptoms and stuff like that. Then on a daily, I think that's important with kids now is like having multivitamins and just having the right stuff that's going in and out.
Yeah.
Because sometimes like our body just react to like deficiencies.
Yeah.
Like
We started off with a little syringe. So we would put it in his jaw and he would try to coat his mouth, really tight. And I would squeeze his jaw, his little lips, and I'd drop a little bit in, you know. It may look like, I'm hurting the kid, but I used to hold his nose. So, he
I
have to
remember,
breathe and he
yeah,
have to
I remember my
swallow.
grandma used to do that to me.
And
Yeah.
then, and then sometimes he would put it in his mouth and then he'd spit it back out. I'd be like, so you have to retake that, right? No, Nana, no. No, Nana, Chris don't want it. I said, stop talking in the third person. Just say I don't
He
want
said
it.
like Yoda. Said Chris don't want it.
I said, stop talking like that. But no, well, yeah, we started using a syringe
Uh,
and then we started mixing it in his juice. Now, if he see you, it's a wrap. He's not drinking the juice. So we used to have to turn, our back and, manipulate stuff and then be like, you want to race me? Let's see who could drink our juice the fastest. But we would do, just a little bit so he won't waste the whole thing.
yeah.
So
I
you have to find creative ways
No, that's really important. Like, cause
or get gummies, like they think it's candy,
yeah,
gummies or liquid. Liquid is preferred because it goes straight into the bloodstream.
and that's why we do the sea moss like tincture, where I
Okay.
make the sea moss. I had a raw sea moss, rinse it, and then you turn it into a gel, and then I put it into a smoothie.
Oh, you
So,
do it yourself?
turn it into the gel.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just get the wild iris sea moss, and then I clean it, and then you soak it, it expand,
Okay.
and then you don't heat it up too much. You heat it up on the stove, and then I just jar it.
Mhm.
So then every day, MJ he'll drink a smoothie with bananas, put fruit in it. I put the sea moss in it, and then I put chlorophyll and magnesium.
Okay.
And
Well,
like
listen, if you don't know what you're doing, please don't do it.
nah, that's secret. No, it's like
Don't
a
do
gel. It get hot. It'll
you
be
know.
like, yeah, it'll
Find
burn you.
somebody to do it for you, okay?
But I think, if we look at just the diets from back in the day till today,
Yeah.
like grandparents probably raised on farms and picking their own
Mhm.
collard greens. And then
Mhm.
we look at like the diet of today. I mean, that could, if everything start with the gut, that could be a major factor. That's why
Yeah.
I say I don't
Oh
want to
yeah.
get too
The
caught
leaky
up
gut
in,
stuff.
yeah, your gut sensitive. So your
Mhm.
gut, it go to your brain. So like I mean, nothing against fast food and some of these other things like that, but I know my grandma, when we was around, she cooked every meal, both of my grandmas. So
Yeah.
I think that got a lot to play with just, being attentive and stuff like that. It's like what these kids are eating. So, kudos to y'all for like doing the multivitamin. Cause I think that's what is gonna help the kids through, it's like especially throughout the school day.
How often do you introduce new food, Tim J?
We tried this like as much as possible, probably a few times throughout the week.
Okay.
Everybody eat different. Like me and Jess might eat this. MJ go have his spaghetti, and then his sister don't like spaghetti. Go figure. So
So y'all making 2 and 3
so
meals?
yeah, it's like 3 meals. Yeah, throughout the whole day. But his sister get him to do stuff that we,
Okay.
So he'll try stuff, especially for her. If she say, "Here, MJ, eat it," he'll eat it.
Now my grandson didn't like spaghetti, but he loved the noodles.
Yeah,
So we would just make the noodles and put a little butter in it, and he was like happy with that. And I was like,
that's what my
you
daughter,
know,
she eat butter noodles.
and I'm like, you don't want no sauce? No, Nana. I'd be like, just try a little bit. No, Nana. I'd be like, excuse me, go ahead and eat your little plain noodles then.
Yeah, no, he tries to he eat fruits and vegetables though too. He eat cucumbers, he eat apples, he eat
I love
oranges.
that.
So he eat it's just but his main course is spaghetti, the gluten free, dairy free pizza, and
Do you use do you do squash spaghetti?
that's what we
The
about.
zucchini?
That's what we about to convert to
Okay.
because like we got the little KitchenAid to do the spiral. We about to start doing that and then just making our own spaghetti sauce
Oh,
too.
y'all doing homemade stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, now Chris, you already know.
Yeah, I just don't trust like so many people handling my food.
Yeah.
Like you go out, people kind of, like I just
So
don't.
you guys got a garden?
Um,
Are you thinking about getting a garden?
yeah, she want one for just want one for her birthday.
They
So
have something now that you can put in your house, like the little tower.
yeah, and hang it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One of my
I'm a
girlfriends
builder.
have that, and I was just like, she's Caucasian, and she's really into it. And I was like, yeah, we don't really do that. And she always laughed at me when I say that. Like I always say, black people don't do that. But now I'm thinking like, I want to do that.
Or even a raised bed garden. You build it up and the stuff will start growing. It's
Well, I live in an
easy.
apartment, so I can't do it now.
Oh, you
I
talking
don't have
about
my house
but that
now.
tower just putting stuff in the windowsill and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's a whole concoction. It's like it's a whole little thing. And it started growing a little vine, start growing around it.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, it's a whole little concoction. Let me see. I had a couple of more questions. Um, oh, what helps MJ feel calm?
Hugs.
Hugs.
Yeah, I kind of like compression with him. If he freak out too much, I just come on. I hold him, but then we do breathing exercises with him too, to where
Okay.
say breathe 10 times. Once he do that, he go calm down. But I embrace him a lot. Like I kind of because sometimes like people do like it's like kind of like the weighted vest, weighted blanket thing, that compression. So if he have too much of a meltdown or something like that, I just come hold him and just I'm there, like hey, I'm dad right here.
Now, how have you and your wife dealt with your mental along the journey?
I mean, for me, I kind of just got a routine of like getting up, praying, meditating, listening to gospel music. I like just work on my frequency because I mean, you are who you attract, and
Yeah.
that's energy. That's not just people and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
if you start, I mean, just down to the music, if it's shouting in the music or if you listening to instrumental or piano, like once you start changing your frequency, it's gonna be easier to deal with situations because you at a constant like zen or a mellow
Yep.
point. So that's what I do. I kind of just I put a routine in to where I try to be as balanced and calm as possible, and pray, release and stuff like that.
Do you guys go to church?
We about to start getting back into it. So I'm about to build a sensory den in my dad's church so we could start getting MJ into there.
Okay.
We
Is that what like just a room off the sanctuary where it kind of like the sound is not muffled?
It got sound panels in it. It's actually I'm working with with Tiana and Feed the Need, and we looking to see how can we like roll this out. So we built one at her dad's church for her son.
We used to have one, but it was called a cry roll. So like the people out there can't hear the kids crying inside there.
I didn't never even think about it like that. It's probably very similar. It got the sound panels, a couple lights and stuff like that. So just so he could, be able to chill out.
Yep, you could shut the door, and if he's walking around and moving around, you could still focus on the service, and the doors closed, and he's cool. Or the children that go in there is cool. Yeah, we used to call it a cry roll. Well, tell us about your business.
Oh,
you and your wife business.
I know people probably was wondering why I got this mannequin by me with this.
The sock.
Yeah. So Adapt, this is Adapt. You can see the A here. The A is on the bracelets and on the clothing. This is MJ here. That's the spaceman. But so with Adapt, it just started out with a phrase. It stands for autism adapting. And it was just something that we put on the shirt to just say, like, this is what's going on. Okay. So we was wearing it to the baseball games and things like that. And then what we saw is like we could turn this into a business for him, but then we could also help people. Yeah. So we had him draw the A. He drew this actual A. We digitized it, and then we just start kind of like selling merch and stuff and like donating some of the proceeds. But
Now, how much are the socks?
we selling them for 10. These are learning socks. So the first thing we came out with wristbands, then we had shirts, and then
Since
now
you
we
gave me
got
my
the
wristband, I've never taken it off,
I like
like
them.
ever.
My wife liked the gray ones. I like the black ones.
I love this.
Thank you. See, Jess. But no, these socks here, this is probably the coolest thing we came out with. So it helped individuals that's on the spectrum learn how to put their feet in the socks correctly by following the arrows.
Okay.
And then they can say where their toes are at. Because MJ would put his socks on like, backwards or upside down. He'd get frustrated. It don't take a lot to get him, frustrated.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
these are purposely oversized, but they, they're fully, you can feel them like they're fully thickened. They're not like thin socks or
yeah,
anything
they-
like that. And they're learning socks. So what like I'm looking to do with Adapt is first we want to share our story
Mhm.
because you never know who you could help. And then I want to like, as we continuously doing this, I want to combine like my engineering background and keep coming up with different things to kind of like help out.
So is that the only design, or do you have other designs?
So we got 2 different color socks. We got the wristbands, we got shirts, we got hoodies.
What's the other color sock?
They're gray. They're gray, and then they got a blue A on them. So that was like a
Okay.
limited edition that we just go come out with once, and
Okay.
then we go probably go back to these.
So okay. So you're not gonna do like the autism colors in the different socks, like red, blue, green.
We kind of like gauging it,
Okay.
because man, so many people from different areas want the socks from different purposes.
Okay.
Like some people want it like this, some people want it quarter. Like my one friend who
Yeah,
recorded
because it's
us.
getting hot, so we need footies.
Yeah, so it's like it's like you got to kind of like gauge your audience and see, my one friend, he
Let me-
teach ballroom and dance, and he said these are the most comfortable socks so he can actually teach dance and
They
stuff.
feel like the socks that I have, my Detroit Pistons and Lions socks. They're really thick and
Yeah. So I mean, they could be worn
comfortable.
in like with like flip flops during the summer. That's how I'm gonna wear them. But we want to
Please don't be one of them dads.
at home. At
Okay.
home. I ain't gonna drive around like that.
I don't know why you fellas do that. Y'all have on socks and sandals. It's like choose a struggle, one or the other.
I'll put on the dap socks with some man sandals. I might just do that just for
Don't
Father's
do
Day
it,
and
don't
take a
do it.
picture. But we want to come out with we about a year in, so we want to come
Okay.
out with like functional stuff that could help the community. I mean, I could be pretty creative with stuff, but
So with your business, is it just the products, or is it something added to it as far as like resources?
good question. So we got when you go to Adapt, which is AUDAPT.com, you can see we like one portion of it is just
Oh, you know what? I think I just got that.
what's that?
AU, is that for autism?
Oh, autism
AU?
adapting. I didn't even say AU.
I'm like, what?
Adapt.
I'm
Yep.
like, he keeps saying adopt, and I'm like, that's not how you spell it. So the AU is okay. You put them
Yep.
both together.
Yep, autism adapting. That's what it
They
stands
probably
for.
the audience probably got it. It just took me a minute.
No, but we like we share the story. So like we try to like how we tie his shoes
Okay.
when we first start, just so people could come on and say, hey, I might be going from there, or hey, they could kind of see how we approached it. So one portion of it is sharing, the other portion of it is selling like really cool, dope accessories so
Okay.
people could wear it year round. So
Okay.
we don't, you could kind of see certain stuff during the month of April, and then you don't see it no more. So we want to just keep coming out with stuff that's fashionable that you can wear year round. The other portion, the community portion, I would say, is how we partner with Feed the Need with building out these sensory dens,
Okay.
community events that's going on. Like whether I'm affiliated with the event or not, when you go to our community page, you can see events going on all throughout the year.
Okay.
And then at the bottom of it,
For
we
for autism.
autism, any type of disability, mental health, which is
Mhm.
important for the parents.
Mhm.
So I put that on there, and then I do have resources for some of the different
Did you put
organizations
the
that we connected
resources
with.
on there for a summer school? Well,
I need to
summer
work on
programs?
that because a lot of people starting to ask about that. But we put like Autism Alliance of Michigan. I got Hezekiah on there. I'm gonna get Puzzle Piece on there. With their resource, with their with Bree's resource book.
Okay.
But every time we run across like a unique resource or organization that's doing something, we just put it on there.
Okay. Oh, you know what? I don't know why I didn't do this, and that's crazy. Yeah, I'm gonna step away, but Anywho, hold the line. I don't know why I didn't. We're talking about autism. That's crazy, Carmen.
Man, I didn't even show the blue sock. I had the blue sock too, but yeah.
I have a book on autism. It's called Let's Be Friends. So I brought this for secondary education, um, and the characters is my two grandsons. So I always try to incorporate both of them. I had, somebody illustrated to draw Chris, and the different things. I don't know if y'all can see little Vince with the afro. That's his little cousin. But this book was created because I see a lot of kids that has autism that have a hard time engaging with other children and playing. So I wanted to teach first and secondary age children how to be friends with children that are on the spectrum.
That's dope.
Giving them an idea of how to approach them, and if they don't respond right away, give them a little time because it can be overwhelming. Just come back and ask the question if they're verbal. But include them, because they want to do everything that you do. Sometimes it just take them longer, or they just have to feel comfortable.
Man,
And
that's amazing. I think what I really like about that, and sorry for cutting you off, is that we are experts in our own story and our own
Yeah.
execution. And what I like is that we're not, parents and those affected by autism is not waiting for somebody to come out. Like you see a need, you see something, and you went and addressed it, and you also and so many, you building legacy. And that's what I want to do with Adapt. I hope that Adapt help empower parents. Like if your child has a unique ability, if your child could sketch, man, build up a legacy, build up a company for your child. Like do that. With Adapt, this is MJ with his A, but dad is go use whatever his mind to do this, help people. But you also giving your child, like a head start.
Yeah.
So that's what I really like. I like running into like Dr. Batanji, Bree, Tierra with autism, and it's like people taking their own initiative to help people out, but also like to build, because you do have your own expertise. You don't have to wait for somebody else to do it.
And it's frustrating being in a place where you're learning for the first time, especially if it's the first person in your family that's on the spectrum, and you don't know the resources. So it can be frustrating. So I think it's pretty cool that people are getting out there and they're spreading the word about autism, because it was one point that you wouldn't see a lot of African American introduce their children to the world. They were kind of hid. I seen a lot of Caucasian people, they bring their kids out. So I love now seeing parents out there advocating for their children. And I even love more seeing the fathers out there advocating for their children. But we're getting more and more fathers, I know, at my school that are there for their children. We see them more than we see mom, so I think that is like totally awesome. But I think putting our children in a place where they can be successful,
Yeah.
When we're no longer here. I can remember like it was yesterday, the first day that we went to the park and Chris was in, kind of introduced to other kids. We were just sitting on the bench right up there on 12 Mile. What is it? Inglewood or Inglewood?
With the red stuff. Like, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
We were just sitting there and I'm like asking Chris, let's go, and he like, so he's sticking real close to me. And one little kid just ran up and say, "You want to play?" And Chris looking at me, he looking at the kid, and the kid's like, "Come on, let's play."
See, that's the innocent and purity of kids,
Little white little boy. He said, "You want to play?" And Chris looking at me, Chris looking at him, and little boy like, kind of like grabbing his hand, "Come on, let's play." And he looked at me like, "You going too?" So he grabbed my hand. I said, "Okay, come on." I found myself clamming, my big butt clamming up in there. But the smile, and I don't want to cry, but the smile that came on my grandson's face was like nothing else.
That's why you got to get the kids out. That's how it is with them. Take them somewhere. He start running around with the kids. They jump on the trampoline. See, they fulfilling something the dad can't feel, So that's why parents, you gotta, take them out. Your kids, I would just like to say all y'all doing an exceptional job. You
Yes.
you taking care,
Yes.
but it's other areas that you can't feel,
Yeah.
far as like relationships and kids meeting other kids and stuff like that, to where, kids are very, for the most part, very pure, very innocent, and
Yeah.
they understand it and they want to just play. And like, that's what you got to let them go do.
I said, push the boundaries, expand your territory, allow your child to do as much as they can, and don't limit them by your limited, mindset, what you think they can't do. They'll
Yeah.
surprise you with a lot of things they can do.
Yeah.
So any last words before we go? I so appreciate, you coming to the table. I appreciate Miss Jessica for allowing you to come to the table and talk about, your family.
First I'd like to thank you for getting me out here. I would like to, just thank God, for keeping me in a good space and, working on me daily. And thanks Jess, for being a great wife. MJ, Jaleesa, I love you guys. Thanks my father, Pastor Eric Powell, and um my whole family,
Yeah.
Pastor Michelle, Pastor Lynn, my grandma, Pastor Tiola Funches, my mom, Ernestine. But
Are you going in ministry? There's a lot of pastors there.
yeah, I don't think I got a choice. But I would just like to just say to all the parents that, you guys are doing a phenomenal
Yeah.
job. I love connecting with you guys and just stay encouraged. Let's just keep working together. Let's keep
Yes.
sharing our stories. Let's keep uplifting each other, because I think that's the best way to build this community. So, I just appreciate all you guys for like checking out my videos. I appreciate all you guys for sharing, and gals. And I'm just, just keep up the great work. No matter what, you're doing a good job.
What's your next event?
I'm gonna be out this Sunday at Chambers Mental Health Walk.
Okay.
And then
Where's that
from
located at? Where do we go?
it's in Rosedale. It's in Rosedale Park. It's actually, if you go to adapt.com, it's on the main page, with all how you can sign up and stuff like that.
And it's not ADOP. It's AU.
Yep, sorry. Yeah, adapt. So AUDAPT.
Okay.
Yeah, I know the O on it make it seem like an O, but it's actually an A in there. So it's adapt, AUDAPT. And that, you can see the event that's coming up tomorrow. It's a link, so you can check out the Spectrum Talk, all the previous episodes, and pretty much all the resources.
Get your book. Let's Be Friends. It's a real easy read. It has awesome pictures. The colors is beautiful. Get the book. I gave them to all the kindergarten teachers, and the preschool teachers, and they absolutely love it. And the kids be like, can we read that book again?
How can people get it?
You can get it by going to DetroitTableTalk.com and go to the shop. What is it called? The store. The store and shop. Go to the store and shop. But I appreciate you guys. Oh, and guess what, guys? It's been long awaited, but let me say it here first. You get the information more on my page, Detroit Table Talk, or you can go to Carmen Evans. I haven't put it out there yet, but I will. My first men's oil is available, and it is called Nice, and it smells nice too. So I'm going to be pushing that, and the women's, we got you coming the next couple of weeks. We're still doing a little tweaking with that, but I'm so glad that now I have my own. I love smell good, so I have my own men oil and women's oil, and the women's is called Bella. So I need you guys to cop it and see how you like it, and then push it.
That's what's up.
So this is a little thing that I just started doing. And it fits me. It fits Detroit Table Talk. But we close out with a quick little prayer. If you don't want to stay for it, log off. But it's going to be said anyway. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. Lord, we just thank you for our guest that came to the table today. We thank you for his wife. We thank you for his family. Lord, we ask you to continue to lead and guide them, give them the strategic plan for MJ life. and how he will fit in this community and be a blessing to this community. We thank you for all the children that are on the spectrum, that each and every one of them are being led by you. Each and every one of them have a purpose on this life, and each and every one of them will be directed by you and your spirit. Keep them covered, Lord. Keep them innocent. Protect them from all danger, seen and unseen. And we'll continue to give you all honor, praise, and glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
And we're out with see. No, we won't see you next week. My sister is coming to town. My niece is coming to town from Africa, and I get to meet my niece for the first time. So no, I will be hanging out with my family next week. So we will see you on the 31st. That's after the holiday. So eat your ribs, eat your baked chicken, your fried chicken, your barbecue chicken, your mac and cheese. And I'll see you after that. And then come on, guys. I need you to partner with me. I need to lose some weight. So I need some people that's going to chime in and that's going to be serious about losing some weight, because the summer season is coming and we outside. I'll see y'all on the 31st. Bye.
Peace out.